无偿捐赠日军侵华相册的埃文凯尔开启中国行。
So have you learned any Mandarin?
A little bit, yeah. I've been studying for a year. 我的汉语不好，我叫埃文凯尔。I've been doing too much with all that I've been doing in preparing for this. I spent a lot of time reading a lot of books about China, its history, its culture, its people.
中国不应被遗忘的反法西斯盟友。
The book became a symbol of a horrible chapter of Chinese history. So I gave it to China because it was a symbol and it's their history.
风云对话专访捐赠日军侵华罪行相册的美国青年埃文凯尔。2025年3月初，曾将记载日本侵华证据的珍贵二战相册捐赠给中国的美国青年埃文凯尔抵达北京，开启第2次中国行。2022年，埃文获得了一本二战相册，其中包括了一些侵华日军暴行的照片。翻阅这些照片，他意识到这可能揭示了中国最痛苦的一段历史。在埃文中国行期间，风云对话在天津采访了这位远道而来的外国友人。
Hi Evan, it's great to have you with us on Talk with World Leaders. Welcome.
Thank you. I can't believe I'm sitting here, but I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me too.
Sure, and how are you enjoying your time in China?
This is the trip of a lifetime. I'm having a lot of fun. I thought I was going to have a good time, but I just wasn't expecting such an overwhelmingly positive reception here.
Yes. Let's go back to how this all started. So about 2 years ago, you made a donation of an album to the Chinese consulate in Chicago, and this album contained photos of barbarous acts of violence committed by Japanese forces during the Second World War. Tell us about how you came across this album, how it all started.
Yes, so I own St. Louis Park Gold and Silver. It's mainly we trade in scrap metal and bullion, but we deal in coins, we deal in collectibles, antiques, and I'm also a figure on social media in America.
Sure.
And how all that got started, I randomly got into this industry that I'm in, and I was apprenticing under somebody else that owned a precious metal shop. And I started making videos online because I thought, in the face of the pandemic, we need to diversify. And long story short, the elderly shop owner didn't understand what I was doing, and it came to a head, and I quit, and I opened up my own store. But I didn't have a business plan, and I just kind of hit the ground running, and I thought, well, I need people to sell me stuff. It's a buy-sell operation, and I don't really want to spend money on advertising. I can advertise for free online. So I created this program where mail me your stuff, whatever state you're in.
Okay.
Mail me your stuff. I'll make a video about the intrigue of it, going through what is it, and then I'll buy it and sell it for profit. So about 1.5 years into doing this, a gentleman in a different state reached out, said his father just passed away, and going through his stuff, they found this book of photos. He said they were disturbing from World War II, and I didn't think much of it, and the guy sent it to me, and that's how it came into my possession. I got it on a Monday in late August. It was delivered via FedEx. I'm looking at this thing, and the first few pages were striking. Yeah. Super high quality photos, and photos of that era, they're generally very poor quality. They're grainy, they're blurry, and these look like they had no light exposure. Like it looked like they were just like these incredible photos out of National Geographic. But then you get 7 pages in, and then it turned into savagery, and I saw the word Nanking. And I thought I might have evidence of a war crime here. And I've had a rule, if something has to do directly with a war crime, then it belongs in a museum. But my efforts to get items into museums' hands, I had about 200,000 followers on American TikTok when this happened. And my efforts to home stuff to a museum went nowhere. Museums wouldn't even get back to me. So I thought, well, what if I make a video that gets a lot of eyes on it, maybe gets the attention to get this into the right hands, and then it completely ran away from me.
Now I've seen previous interviews, and basically you posted this online, and then the next day you came back with all this feedback. Tell us about that. When you found out what happened the next day or the same evening.
Yeah. It was it was like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, posted the video at 7. I went out with some friends. I had one of my New York friends was in town, so we went out. And we get back, and I'm in the bathroom, and I'm like, I wonder if I got any views. And I look at my phone, and it had millions of views, and I was like,
right.
So I went out to my friends. I go, you got to leave. I feel like I have a big day tomorrow. And I walked in the next day, and the phone's ringing off the hook. And at first it was overwhelmingly positive. And then it quickly, within 2 days, festered into this thing of it's a hoax. Because I didn't post the photos of the violence because I didn't want my account to get a strike. Because the censorship with posting violent photos, you can get in trouble.
Sure.
So I posted some on Twitter, and then it turned into this conspiracy that I had staged this whole thing, and it was this elaborate plot. And then all these other influencers started making videos about that, and all these words got put in my mouth that I didn't say, and people just started making up intentions or making up what they thought my intent was. And it moved so fast, there was nothing I could do to stop it. And then, meanwhile, I had all these journalists calling me up in the American media, like Rolling Stone was one,
Right.
Business Insider, Yahoo News. They kind of walked me right off a cliff. They made it sound like, oh, this is really cool that you're doing this, and like you've exposed a war crime. And so they gave me this interview that went one way, but then what they didn't tell me was they went and then they interviewed a historian, and it just turned into the slant of jumping into this narrative that I'm just this idiot that staged this stuff and I'm just trying to get famous off of a war crime. And it really got scary for me. Because that's, when people like sensationalism, that's the internet and the internet hate machine. And as soon as that got started, that became the narrative of it until I made the donation. And even still, that lingers to this day. People still think I staged this.
埃文在美国明尼苏达州经营金银买卖生意。2022年8月，他收到一本2战时期的私人相册，照片中日军对中国人的残忍屠杀触目惊心。同年的11月16日，埃文将这本相册无偿捐给中国。中国驻芝加哥总领事馆特别赠送一份珍贵的国礼瓷和感谢信，以向他表达诚挚的感谢。
Now tell us about the donation. How long did it take for you to work out the donation process?
It took about 6 weeks because, what was scary was people were demanding an answer, demanding I do something. And so the first thing I did was, I thought, this has to go to China. And I arrived at that conclusion because Chinese people were showing up at my store, crying, hugging me, giving me flowers, saying, no matter what's in this book, you've started a conversation and you've educated a lot of people about a really terrible thing that happened, and we appreciate that. And so
Is that why you decided you have to donate this
to
the consulate?
The book became a symbol of a horrible chapter of Chinese history, and it's so bizarre, and only in this world we live in does something like this happen, where there weren't photos of the Nanking Massacre in it, and I made a mistake, but it became a symbol of what happened, and in doing so, it became almost more powerful than what could have been in it anyway. So I gave it to China because it was a symbol and it's their history, and it also, even though it didn't contain photos of what I thought, it did contain, it's got books that have 400-something photos, most of them are real. And they really capture life in China at this time period. So I first had to get a lawyer, because I can't just call up a foreign government as a private citizen. It doesn't work that way. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And the lawyer that I got, Joe Friedberg, he actually just passed away recently. He's was one of the best lawyers in Minnesota. And he volunteered to help me because he wanted to help. So through him and his office, I was able to get in contact with the consulate, arrange a donation. They flew 2 representatives to Minnesota to come receive the gift and meet me, and I read them a letter explaining what happened, gave them the book, and then I wasn't expecting, I got a diplomatic gift out of it.
Right. And you didn't know what it was at the time.
That's one of my most embarrassing moments in this whole thing, was I got this thing and I'm like,
yeah,
because they were super humble
the
about
porcelain, the beautiful,
yeah,
the highest diplomatic honor.
They didn't say that. They said it's an important gift, and I'm like, it's beautiful. Like, okay, what is it? It's important. Okay. And then, I found out 2-3 days later, because I just left it in my store on a bookshelf. I thought, well, this is a nice talking piece to know. People can come in and look at it, and I can explain this whole wild story that happened. But then I found out what it was, and I came in the middle of the night. I didn't have a car back then. Took a car into my store, and it's been in hiding since, because I'm terrified somebody's gonna smash it.
How did you find out what it was?
Just on social media, I kept seeing it pop up, and I'm like, what is this thing? And then I started getting some messages from people like, do you know what they got you? I started seeing you can summon the dragon. I'm like, what does that mean? And then, once I figured it out, like I said, I realized how precious and sacred and important and just big of a deal it was that they honored me like that.
How do you think this has changed your life, changed your work? changed how you look at things?
I'm now not just, well, you guys call me a pawn shop owner. That's not fully accurate, but I'm not just a shop owner in Minnesota that makes videos on eclectic antiques and the history of coins and such. I've stepped into a role that I never could have imagined that's going to be the most defining part of my life. I mean, this trip here to China was to introduce myself to China, to see what is my further purpose beyond just this one thing that happened, and this is going to be my work for the rest of my life. I'm not walking away from my store. There's people that depend on me. In fact, I just talked to them last night, and we're figuring out how I can split my time between America and China. But I see permanent role here as a private citizen advocating for world peace, and it's just wild that 5 years ago I was nothing like this I ever could have thought was possible. In my career, and I desperately need your guys' help. Let a customer reach out, tell me.
大学时期，埃文曾主修日本研究，这让他立刻意识到应该把这本相册送往中国。捐赠后，埃文更新了一段长达7分钟的视频，视频记录了相册的电子文档。可是这件事也给他的生活掀起风波。他在网上发布视频后，处境变得非常危险。有人说相册是伪造的，也有人指责埃文这是在用战争罪行博名声。最恐怖的是，他受到了不少死亡威胁，这让他不得不穿上防弹衣来保护自己。
I know this is going to be difficult, but if you go back to the album itself, what were the photos that were actually contained in them?
Right, so it starts out, there's a certificate, there was this joke that like sailors did, they called it the certificate of the Golden Dragon. It's once you cross the 180th meridian line. Basically, it's documenting where you were, because you know, it's a big deal back then, it still is now, but to travel that far away from home. So there's a certificate, and then it's a few photos of life in 1937 China. The guy's name who took the photos was Leslie Guy Allen Jr., who was a sailor in leading up to World War II and in World War II.
Right.
And he actually passed away in 1964. So it's his travels all throughout Southeast Asia, ramping up to World War II. And like I said, the first 7 pages, it's pictures of locals, it's pictures of local life, it's pictures of him with his shipmates, you know, drinking, having fun, going out, seeing local towns, and you can match up the ship that he was stationed on. I think it was the USS Augusta. You can match up the ship log with the photos. In 7 pages in, you have one of the captions is "Hell on Nanking Road," and it's just bodies that are rotting, covered in flies. There's people being beheaded. There's some really savage stuff. Now, there's some debate as to what exactly are these photos. I didn't get too much into it because the whole thing got so messy, and again, this whole thing just got so insane. I had trouble getting these photos authenticated at all. I had, when the video came out, I had by Thursday evening, so about a day after the video came out, I had a laundry list of academics willing to fly to Minnesota to come check it out. And over the course of that weekend, it was Labor Day weekend, which is an American holiday. Every single person didn't want to go anywhere near it. They all were just thinking it was a hoax. I had a doctor of photography at the Minneapolis Institute of Art. So it would have been a 10-minute car ride for him just to come over and render an opinion.
Right.
And he conveniently had a scheduling conflict and didn't want to help at all.
How were you feeling at the time? You must have been feeling
I lost my mind. I lost my mind, and I'm still trying to like
on your own.
Yeah. I lost about 20 pounds. I stopped sleeping. I had panic attacks. I started wearing a bulletproof vest because I was getting threats.
What were these threats?
People would message me stuff on social media, a knife emoji, a bomb emoji, a gun emoji. I had my address messaged to me a few times, like my exact address, apartment number, and all.
Right.
I think my apartment got broken into one day. I can't prove it, but I came back one day and things were different. I did call the police after some crazy guy came in, was trying to hack into my Wi-Fi, which I had to shut down, and that's on camera too. There's a YouTube video I posted it's got all of this. And this guy was like trying to hack into my Wi-Fi, and I got reports from people that saw him outside. He parked around the back and was like rocking in his car, and he seemed pretty crazy. And like at this point I had the vest on with the gun. So I kind of hesitantly let him in, and I kicked him out after I saw what he was doing after maybe about 7-8 minutes. But yeah, it got really scary really fast. And
Why do you think these people are doing this?
Well, there's people that deny this
their
happens.
intention was?
And there's nationalism that is tied to the events of this, and that nationalism is still alive to this day. And the people that are willing to defend that false reality really want to defend it.
埃文·凯尔对二战并不陌生，他的祖父是一名美国上尉，曾于二战时期在太平洋战场浴血奋战。埃文记得，战争带来的创伤伴随了祖父的余生。后来，埃文在高中系统性学习了二战的历史，大学期间主修日本研究，让他对战争与和平有了更深刻的思考。
So this part of history was taught in schools in the U.S.
Well,
and at college.
At my college, with a specific area of study where there were 10,000 people that graduated with me, and I think 112 people majored in Japanese studies. So not a super popular major. I also went to a really good high school. Americans take U.S. history in 11th grade, or at least they used to. And my school, being a good school, we focused on World War II as part of American history. I think we actually had a whole lecture day where we talked about Nanking and what happened. But I remember her like specifically honing in on the atrocities of the Pacific, and that was my first real learning about it. But no, Americans by and large don't talk about this. It is, as Iris Chang called it, a forgotten Holocaust. And I hope that changes too, because it's every bit as important as the European one, and it's just not taught the same way in American schools by and large. I think that's part of why this was so important to Chinese people, and why, you know, perhaps the consulate saw me as being worthy of receiving that gift, was I accidentally educated millions of people around the world about what happened. And I even...
Do you think you did?
Yeah, from the feedback I've received, I really do. If you look at the comments section of the original video, there's so many people that say, I had no idea, wow, what happened? And that was one thing that really blew me away and struck me. Because when I saw that, I was like, what do you mean you didn't know this? I thought everybody was taught this. And then I found out, no, I got a good education, but not everybody else did. And it's indeed a forgotten Holocaust.
A lot of people in the US didn't know. A lot of people in the world didn't know. Do you think there is a connection between the Chinese perspective on Japan today and the World War II atrocities committed in Nanking?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of anger still. And that's something that's made me very uncomfortable in this, because I don't want to stir up any more anger. It's not in anybody's best interest. It's not in China's best interest. It's not in Japan's best interest. It's not in global security's best interest. How do you deal with something like that when you still have a lot of denial that's commonplace? If I was invited there for a peace summit, I would go, but I wouldn't go there for my safety because of what happened. I wouldn't feel safe there because of all the anger that I have stirred up with this. I've kind of become a symbol of a war crime that I had no participation in. It's very bizarre, but it's definitely something that I need to be careful of now for the rest of my life for security reasons. I still get threats to this day. It's not common. I don't get them very often, but nothing's happened so severe where I have had to call the FBI or the police and say, hey, look, somebody's really gonna do some damage to me. But I do get...
Hey, having to wear a bulletproof vest?
Oh, welcome to America. As far as carrying a gun goes.
I would imagine you need police protection of some sort.
Well, I also had a bit of guilt too, because my mom thought the same thing, and I thought, I've already created such a mess, I don't want to cause any more burden here. But I did call the police when the crazy guy, kicked him out of my store, and they didn't do anything. They were like, well, what does this matter? And I tried to explain what was happening, and they kind of just didn't get it. So yeah, I got to stay vigilant, and I guess I do for the rest of my life. But that's one way or another, whether or not I knew I was doing, that's what I signed up for, and I guess I just got to live that life now.
Yes. Next question. What role do you think China played during the World War II?
Well, they were the defenders of aggression. They were invaded. They didn't provoke Japan. Japan committed a false flag in Manchuria and used that as a catalyst to start a full-scale slaughter. That's just a simple fact of history. As somebody who's studied Japanese history and who's studied quite a lot about World War II, Yeah, they were attacked and they defended themselves or tried the best they could, but took a catastrophic loss of human life in doing so. They defended themselves and eventually pushed Japan out, but it was a long and brutal and bloody conflict that's one of the worst chapters of human history. It's literal hell on earth.
I mean, there's a school of thought that says the West is underestimating the role that China has played during the World War II. If it wasn't for China holding on for such a long time, things would have panned out differently.
Indeed, I would subscribe to that as well. Japan expended enormous military forces and losses trying to take and hold China. And were it not for that, then indeed, perhaps things would have gone differently. Yeah, I wouldn't say that that's a school of thought. I would say that's a fact.
So have you learned any Mandarin?
A little bit, yeah. I've been studying for a year, unfortunately. I mean, I've been doing too much with all that I've been doing and preparing for this. I spent a lot of time reading a lot of books about China, its history, culture, its people, and I invested a lot of time in that. I meet with a tutor once a week.
Okay.
我的汉语不好。
挺好。
我叫艾文凯尔。
Okay, that's the best.
I like that. Yeah, the way you guys say my name is interesting.
近2年，埃文开始学习中文，并一直期待着能来中国旅游。经历了持续网暴和人身威胁的埃文，将每一次的中国行视作一次疗愈之旅。埃文在采访中说，部分西方媒体对中国的描述有偏颇，真正到了这里，才发现中国的发展早已超乎自己的想象。
What's your favorite city so far?
Well, I've only been to Beijing and Tianjin, and I do like Tianjin a little more. It's a more relaxed way of life. The traffic isn't quite as bad, although I did not think the traffic was nearly as bad as what everybody in the West was saying. There's a lot of Western architecture here too, so just, you know, as a Westerner coming here for the first time, I feel a little more at home seeing that.
How many days were you in Beijing for?
8 days, 9 days, and then we're going to Shanghai.
Was it work every single day, packed completely
Well, except
to
for
the
getting,
max?
I got jet lag exhaustion sickness a few days in, but so we're going to Shanghai next. I spent a lot of time in New York City.
Right.
And I've heard it's the New York of the East, and I've heard it's better than New York, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what Shanghai is like. And then I will be in Nanjing for the anniversary of the massacre, which is obviously going to be a very heavy thing for me, but it's me being there on the ground on the day of the anniversary to remind everybody what happened, I think is a learning tool in and of itself. And I think it's important I'm there. It's important I pay my respects there. I go and I see that history myself and tour the city. I was going to make that my first stop, but the museum for the victims of the massacre, I've heard it's closed currently for construction. So we'll be stopping there on the anniversary, probably a few days before. And then I'll be returning to the United States briefly.
Yeah. I know you said in one of your TikTok, your Douyin, Chinese Douyin videos, that you're going to be making China your second home.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
Excited. One thing I need to get used to is, you know, I've never been recognized like this everywhere I go, and like I need to stress again, like I'm not a celebrity. I guess you all know me because I did something, but this is a lot for anybody to get used to, and logistically it's going to be very difficult for me to figure out how I'm going to be splitting my time, but this is now something I'm planning on doing permanently.
Well, tell us a bit more about your future plans. I know you said you're coming back. Do you think you'll be engaging in promotion of peace? I know you mentioned several times promotion of world peace, cultural exchanges, understanding between China and the US, and things like that.
So I have a lot of different things that I want to do. I want to continue building up my social media following here because, again, I can continue educating people about what happened. I don't want to make that my focal point. But I feel that my presence here and my popularity is a great reminder to the Chinese people that Americans are good people too. And right now we're at an impasse with our relations between Sino-American relations. And
that's a very important point. Very good point.
We can't have a war. The death toll would be a detriment to all of humanity. And frankly, if the United States and China cooperate instead of fight each other, it's to the benefit of humanity. That said, I'm currently a private citizen. No official channels have reached out to me for any kind of a role. And unless they do, I need to choose my words and my actions carefully. So that's why in these interviews I keep reminding people I'm not an ambassador, I'm not with any government, I am just here doing the right thing, trying to be a symbol of peace